Mic was muted. Excuse me. It looks better than Justice League. There's no bullshit fucking mustache gate with this film. Characters like Steppenwolf, there was a complete redesign of their character that looks way better than this one. Um, Overall the CGI, the cleanup, the post look on it, for the most part, looks way better than it did in the original. The one consistent positive I can give this film throughout is the performances. Specifically, I want to commend the performances from the main six, and I want to count Jeremy Irons in there because he shares a lot of scenes with them. I think the chemistry they had is way better in this film than it came off in the original cut. I think the writing is better. I think the acting is just straight up better. Characters that have not liked to date. I didn't really like Ezra Miller's Flash. I didn't even like in the film. I wasn't a huge fan of Cyborg in the film. I didn't like Jason Momoa in the film, and quite honestly, he's one of the things I didn't like about Aquaman as well. I'm just not a fan of this like bro douche Aquaman they kind of started to portray in those films. I think they're all really really good in this film. I'm not quite as on board with the Cyborg performance. You know, Snyder put out all these quotes before the film saying he's the heart of the film. That quite didn't hit for me, but I did think he was good, and I did think when the character wasn't being written like almost a whiny, petulant teen at times, I thought he delivered the rest of the emotional stuff really good. Him and I believe the guy's name is Joe Morton, who played his father. They have some good scenes together. But yeah, and then obviously Affleck. I thought Affleck was one of the best parts of BVS, a film I also don't like. And he's great in this one again too. I thought Gal Gadot gave a very strong performance. I thought Henry Cavill, for the little bit that he's in it, gave a good performance. Amy Adams, Diane Lane, Willem Dafoe for the little bit he's on screen. You know, focus obviously on the main crew, but everyone in this does give a good performance. Even somebody who got like absolutely fucked in the original cut, like Kieran Hines as Steppenwolf. Kieran Hines is a great actor, and again, it's a little hard when he's such a personalityless character, but the menace and the intimidation of that character comes through much more, and his performance is able to shine in that way much more in this one. Another big up I want to give to the film is, I think, again, overall, with the consistent inconsistencies gone and it just being the one through vision, I thought the writing and the direction, a lot of it on Snyder himself, was much, much better. And I think this film, the writing of this film, because I believe a lot of the script is actually on Chris Terrio. I think this serves to prove that Terrio's not a bad writer. He just got fucked with a couple of bad films in a row. People forget that he won the Oscar for Argo, and that's a well-deserved Oscar. A lot of his writing for BVS was Batman's dialogue. I think it stands to reason that Batman is the best character in that film. And Justice League and Rise of Skywalker, I don't think were his fault. I think he just got chucked into bad situations. So he's had a couple of unfortunate areas so far, but overall, I really like him, and I thought the writing in this film. And again, credit to Snyder. I'm not usually a big fan of him, but I thought the direction was very well done. We're gonna get to the first half in the negatives, but I thought the second half of this film, it really picked up. The story really kicked in. It got better in terms of pacing. The flow of it just felt much more natural. It became a real movie to me in the second half, and not just an extended vignette of scenes. It really came together in that second half. And overall, again, before I get to the negatives and I get to the things I didn't like about the film is one coherent vision, and that in and of itself makes it a vast improvement over the version that we saw in theaters nearly 4 years ago. The editing is improved, the score is improved, the cinematography looks better at times. You can tell that this is the vision that he had, and I would say 80-70% of the time that does shine through for a great film. However, I do have some negatives with it. For me, the first two and a half, kind of, the third half starts to pick up, but really the first two and a half chapters are a slog. When this thing got started, I was very worried about where it was going to go. Just nothing about it seemed to work for me. And it takes nearly an hour to 2 hours to cover everything that the theatrical cut covered in like 30 minutes. And this was an instance where I didn't think these scenes needed to be extended. Again, without spoiling anything in particular, to me, one of those, the best example is when Bruce and Arthur first meet in, I think it's like Norway or wherever they meet in that bar. That scene has extended pieces and extended shots and things added in that weren't in the original cut, and I think all of it was unnecessary. I thought the tone in the version we saw in theaters was off, and that has to do a lot with the editing and going for the Avengers comedic feel, and it didn't fit. It fit better in this film. It was better done, but then you add the extensions onto it, and I think that actually hurts the scene in and of itself. Again, a lot of issues in the first half of the film. All the action sequences in those first first 2.5 chapters, are executed in a very Snyder-esque way, where it's a lot of the action is done through slow-mo and then sped up footage. Specifically, the Wonder Woman scene in the I don't know if it's a bank or a museum or wherever those guys break into to set up the bomb. I don't remember what it is, but when they break in and set up the bomb in the original theatrical cut, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't remember that scene playing that same way, just in terms of how the action was shot. In this, it felt very heavy-handedly edited in post, and that never works in action scenes for me. I much prefer action scenes to look well shot and just flow, rather than consistently messing with the footage and speeding it up and slowing it down and bullet time and all this quirky bullshit. Like, I'd rather just see a great fight scene happen. And unfortunately, that happens with a lot of Wonder Woman's fights, not just in this film, but in the DCEU. So it's unfortunate there. Another one of the little things that got to me, if I'm being quite honest, and I know this is a Snyder thing with the DC films, and it's not just in this film, but the color grading gets to me at times. Especially with this film having blood in it, it's really weird to see blood that has like the faintness of vibrancy, but it's had the color sucked out of it because of the color grading you're doing on the film. Things like that just really pull me out for a second. Not like it ruins the movie, but it does hurt you. The film's just too damn long. It's too long. If you're an ultimate Snyder fan, I can imagine that this is exactly what you wanted, but as someone who isn't and is just viewing this as a film, I have to call it like I see it. It's too damn long. Um, Scenes in this film take forever to get to the point of where they're going, and that's even in the areas of the film that I like. There are definitely moments where I'm thinking this can go quicker. I think you could easily shave a half hour or more out of this film if you just speed it up. And I don't think it needed to be 4 hours. I think that's the definition of excess. And sure, you could say, and this is just my opinion, you could say like, well, it's on a streaming service, so who cares? You could pause it and walk away. But if I feel I have to do that during a film, to me that's a negative, because I think I should be able to watch a film in one fell sitting. I also think there were characters that could have been cut down. You see bits and pieces with Martian Manhunter, and this is all revealed, so I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything here. You see bits and pieces with Martian Manhunter. Characters like Ryan Choi are consistently throughout this film, but they never do anything. They're just there simply so you can get the setup bit at the end of the film with them, and for that reason, it doesn't work for me. And then finally, it's going to be hard to talk about this without spoiling anything, but we do have a non-spoiler review coming down very soon, so maybe we'll talk about it there. In my opinion, the last 30 minutes could be cut out of this film. The movie is cut into 7 chapters, 6 chapters, and an epilogue. The epilogue feels, with the exception of the first scene they show, which I think is an actual good epilogue to close the characters out as much as you can, the remainder of the epilogue is 3 extended scenes that are all there simply to set up multiple films that at the moment are never going to get made. Now, if DC completely changes their mind and does a 180 and starts making all this shit again, then I guess I'll be proved wrong and it was worth putting it in. But to me, I felt the film had a natural endpoint, and when I checked the time, there was still 25 minutes left to go. And I don't think any of it needed to be there. If they were ever to greenlight and move forward, then I think you could have released those scenes separately as like the connectors, the setup. But I just don't think they needed to actually be edited into the film, even though they're quality and they're well done. To me, I just felt like they just were there to get the film to 4 hours. It didn't work for me. And I don't think they were needed. Now, as I said, I could be proven wrong, and I'm not saying that the scenes weren't quality, because they were, but they just felt like extended post-credit scenes that didn't need to be there. But at the end of it all, before we get into the credits, which I will say does have a very beautiful rendition of Hallelujah, one that's different from the ones we've heard in the trailers, but I was a fan of that, especially as someone who plays the piano. I love the piano instrumental of the song. I love that. I love that version of it. The first words we see of the credits are "For Autumn," which, if you don't know, that is the name of Zack's daughter, who passed away, and is the reason he stepped away from the film in the first place. And at the end of the day, yeah, it is all for Autumn. This is a film that I think is fine. I have a lot of issues with a lot of the DCEU films. I don't think they have a very good, consistent universe. To me, this is not a perfect film, but it's one of Snyder's better films. It's one of DC's better films in the last few years. I do think it's too long. I do think it could be cut down. It's probably not a film I'll rewatch again anytime soon. But was I ever properly bored or pissed off or out of it? No. The film, even at its groggiest parts, the film does entertain the entire time. And even if I don't think it needs to be 4 hours, it does entertain for 4 hours to an extent. This is not a film. It's emotional catharsis. This is a man who left a project that he loved because he had to deal with a family that he loved. He had to deal with emotional grieving. He had to be there for both for himself, for his wife, for his rest of his family. And I can't imagine the pain that he went through dealing with that. Warner Brothers took advantage of that and made a crappy film out of it because they didn't agree with everything Snyder was doing. And so for the emotional catharsis of it alone, I'm glad that he got to make this film. And even if it's not something that I love or will watch over and over again, for those of you who are diehard Snyder fans, I'm glad you have this. even if this is the last we see of this universe, I'm glad that you guys have this, a proper closeout. A film that's not perfect, but I understand it. Zack Snyder's Justice League, for me, at the end of the day, gets a final score of a 3.5 out of 5. It's not perfect, but it is good. And I'm glad that it's there for the fans who love him and the fans who enjoy the property. That being said, guys, thank you so much for checking out this review. I know it's a little bit of a longer one, but it's a long film, and there's a lot to say, in my opinion. Be sure, if you guys are huge fans of the film, we did have a watch-along happen earlier today. You guys, if you want some commentary a little bit with that film, be sure to check it out. Also, on Sunday, I believe at 9 p.m. EST, we will be doing a spoiler-heavy discussion on the film with some of the different TMG crew members, so be on the lookout for that. That being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to check out all the other reviews, trailer reactions, and podcast series that we are doing here on TMG Entertainment, including tomorrow night at 8 p.m. EST, DC's rival, Marvel, begins The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and we begin a review series on it. With that said, thank you guys for checking this out. My name is Aaron Knoll, and for TMG Entertainment, we will see you next time.